Alright, what is happening guys? Max Kezek here. In today's video we are going to be comparing dating in Brazil versus dating in Colombia. Which one is better? Which one should you pick? Also, if you're traveling to Medellin, Colombia or Rio de Janeiro, Brazil anytime soon, check out my personal guide on both of those cities on my Patreon, okay? It'll be linked down below. It will have everything you actually need and you're gonna save yourself so much money. You're gonna avoid getting scammed, okay? And you'll go to the best places. Trust me, I have wasted weeks sometimes trying to find the best place to go out to and knowing where to hang out in both of those places to meet the highest quality women. I'm gonna make a couple of points on each of these countries and then I'm gonna compare them. So without further ado, let's start off with how difficult is it going to be for a gringo, a foreigner, to date these women. So let's start with Colombia. Colombian women in general are gonna be very receptive towards foreigners. However, in places like Medellin or Medellin is how you pronounce it, it's not going to be the case when it comes to the actual 9s and 10s. The problem with Medellin, Colombia, and I've talked about this guys in my previous videos, is that unfortunately us gringos have a very bad reputation for coming to Medellin, Colombia for sexual tourism. And the problem is, even if you're a guy that has game, okay, is attractive, let's say you're in your 20s or your 30s and you're coming to Medellin, Colombia, it doesn't really matter because the girls are going to automatically view you as that tourist, okay? And you're going to have to go through all of these different hoops to actually meet the nice girls. It's going to be a lot harder. They're going to be trying you out a lot more. And you're kind of left with a very small percentage of women that are actually going to be willing to date you. And when it comes to the most attractive women, it's mostly going to be the girls that are working or the ones that are actually smart, educated, you know, they speak English, they most likely won't want to actually date a gringo. Most of these girls are going to be dating other Colombian guys because there's a stigma around that specific place. And then on the other hand, when you come to Rio de Janeiro, you're not going to be looked as you are a sex tourist. You're just here to enjoy the actual city. The city is absolutely beautiful, especially in the summer. When you come here, you're not going to be looked at as that guy. So that's one of the benefits, I would say, and I think the girls are a lot more receptive. However, if you don't speak Portuguese, again, is going to be a little bit more difficult because most girls here do not actually speak English. What you're gonna find, guys, is that you have plenty of good-looking guys that are tall, muscular, they go to the gym, they're into the health and fitness. And also there's a lot of really rich guys here, okay? Like guys with money. I've seen some McLarens here and there, okay? I've seen some nice bikes. It's not gonna be in your face like Miami, but it does exist. When it comes to Medellin, Colombia, on the other hand, the average guy is very short, doesn't train, doesn't go to the gym. So you as a foreigner immediately will stand out a lot more than, you know, your average Colombian guy. Now there are Colombian guys out there that are very good looking, they're tall, muscular, but that is the exception to the rule, okay? So we're going to be generalizing here throughout the whole video, guys, because otherwise it's like very hard to make a point, you know, just one guy that is Chad from Colombia, okay, cool. That's one guy. That's not the majority of people that stay in there. So definitely I would say that is going to be a lot easier in Colombia, whereas in Brazil tends to be a lot harder when it comes to dating. But you see how I'm basically comparing Rio de Janeiro to Medellin, Colombia, because that's where most of you guys are going to come anyway. You're not going to go to a smaller place in Colombia or a smaller town in Brazil because you're probably not going to like the city or the small little town that I'm going to recommend you. So look, I mean, I'll give you a couple of places right now that you could go to in Colombia. I met some beautiful girls from Bucaramanga. I met some beautiful girls in Pereira. Okay, this is all in Colombia. And a lot of these girls, they will come to Medellin for like a holiday, maybe stay there for like a week and they'll come back to the hometown. Now, would I go there for dating? Probably not. My brother actually went to Pereira for like a couple of days and he didn't really like it that much. It was kind of like, you know, you're gonna move to a town just to find one girl, and this town is like horrible. There's no good internet, there's no good infrastructure, there is absolutely nothing to do in some of these towns, okay? So it's kind of like, this is why everyone goes to Medellin, because it's a lot more developed, you have good gyms, you have good access to internet, you just have things going on in that city. So this is the whole problem when it comes to dating, guys, is that, you know, when you go to these smaller towns, your dating life will improve drastically, okay? And in the big cities, you're gonna have these issues that I just talked about. The same goes for Brazil. Rio de Janeiro, massive city, okay? So many foreigners, so many people. Competition is going to be quite high. You could go even more down south to Florianopolis. I've heard amazing things about that city. It's actually a pretty big city and it's very well developed. And then I've met really, really, really hot girls, okay, in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, but they were actually from up north of Brazil. So some of these cities are going to be Salvador, okay? Second one is Recife, and the third one I got here is Fortaleza. Now, there's probably not going to be much to do in those cities, and this is what you're compromising. So it's like, you know, you can go to those cities and have an amazing dating life, but then you don't actually like the city. Like, for me, I really like Rio de Janeiro because I can go for a nice run, okay? I've got a nice beach, I've got access to gyms, I've got access to decent nightlife, and the roads are a lot more developed. Now, if I'm gonna go up north of Brazil, the roads are gonna be absolutely ridiculous. Now you're gonna have to look into safety aspects, like how safe is it? You know, it's not going to be a popular place, so the police presence might not be as high. These are some of the things that you're going to be running into. But overall, guys, I would say that women in Brazil are a lot more receptive when it comes to meeting new people. They're a lot more open. Colombia as well. However, Medellin is the only place that I would say where the girls are kind of like, especially the Paisas, they're not really so keen on dating gringos. They're not like super excited to date you. The girls that were very receptive from Colombia were usually from Bogota, or they were from Santa Marta, or they were Venezuelan, okay? So they weren't even from that country. And I've had like some odd Paisas that spoke English, very intelligent, and therefore they were more open-minded to dating a gringo. They were kind of like more Americanized. All right, number two, let's talk about the prostitution problem in both of those countries. So Colombia takes the win for this one. Unfortunately, it is ridiculous. I've talked about this in my previous videos, especially Medellin and Cartagena. Bro, Cartagena is the prosy central capital city of the whole world, and Medellin is very close by in the second place. It's everywhere, it's in your face. You can go outside and you'll literally see it on the streets. You can go to the center of Medellin and you're gonna see it everywhere during the day. And then you got Parque Elias, I think it's called. Someone said to me, oh, you don't know how to pronounce it probably or something. It's like, bro, I don't go there. Why would I know how to pronounce that place? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It's that place next to Provenza on the right side. Go there to see for yourself. It's absolutely ridiculous. Basically, Colombia has created a legal brothel for the foreigners, and now they're blaming the foreigners that are going over there. When it comes to Rio de Janeiro, you don't see any of that at all. Like, I have not seen a single working girl on the street like standing there, okay? It's a lot less in your face. It does definitely exist, but you have to be actually actively looking for that. So maybe it's on Tinder, maybe it's like a one-off where the girl is like, hey, I want to get paid. I haven't had that personally. However, in Medellin, I've had it many times where you're swiping on Tinder and then a girl is asking you for money. So definitely Medellin is got a higher problem when it comes to that. Like, I can literally go out in Rio de Janeiro any day and there are going to be normal girls here walking around, and you also get a lot more tourists that are here, and they're obviously not working, they're normal people. Now, when it comes to paying for dates, paying for Ubers, it's going to be very similar. I think in South America in general, the girls want you to provide at least for like an Uber. What I usually do, guys, is maybe the girl would come and meet me, so she has to pay for her own Uber, or she pays for her bus or a train or a metro, and then I'll send her home in an Uber. When it comes to paying for food, you're probably most likely going to be paying for that, guys. It's just kind of similar to like Eastern Europe. Maybe not Poland, because Poland is not really Eastern Europe, guys. I mean, Poland is basically like Central Europe, I would say. It's not Western, it's more like Central. But when it comes to paying for things, okay, like drinks, food, all of that kind of stuff, you know, Ukraine, Russia, Romania, you know, you're gonna have to be paying for that. And that doesn't mean that these girls are for sale. It's just culture, okay? This is how it is. The man provides. So you have to expect that from both of these countries, guys, is where you're gonna be paying. And I would say that Brazil, I've personally met a lot more women that are actually intelligent. They have jobs, okay, they have their own houses, they have their own flats. All right, number 3, let's talk about personality of the girls. Which one do I prefer? Which one do I get on with better? I personally think that Brazilian girls are a lot easier to get on with. I think that they're a lot more intelligent. A lot of the girls that I've dated here do actually speak English. They learn the language. They're very open-minded, which means that most likely they'll have a higher body count than a girl from like Ukraine or something. And that's just the reality of the game. I'm just saying how it is. They like to dance funk. It's very difficult to find like, you know, reggaeton music in Brazil. You know, most of the bars are gonna have funk. Okay, so the girls like to dance and twerk to that. And then Colombian girls are also going to be very flirty, very warm, they're very flirtatious. They like to dance to reggaeton, but majority of them are not going to be as intelligent. Okay, that's just what I found, personally speaking, when it comes to dating over there. A lot of the girls that I spoke to didn't really have much education, and when you actually met the really good girls that are intelligent and they're like, you know, top of the top, it's again very, very difficult, and it's super rare to actually find them in the first place. But maybe if you go to a place like Bogota, you're gonna find a lot more intelligent people. I mean, I've dated a doctor from Bogota, and she was very smart, but that's like, again, very, very rare. And what I usually hear from some of my clients, guys, that have dated in Brazil and Colombia, is that Colombian girls can kind of get a little bit boring after a while, because like, you know, most of them don't speak English and it's just very, very plain. But they're a lot more feminine on the other hand. So they're super, super feminine girls in Colombia, like over the top. Whereas in Brazil, what I find usually, guys would tell me like, hey, I'm actually getting on with this girl very well. She has great personality, she's very talkative. You can actually have a full-on conversation about something, like an intellectual conversation. But a lot of the times when it comes to Brazilian women, they're super masculine. And my brother has experienced this for himself when I took him out to Bosque a couple of nights ago here in Rio de Janeiro, one of the clubs. And some super hyper masculine chick came over. Like, I'm not sure if she was on steroids or if she was a transformer or what the hell was going on there, but she was super masculine, like leading, you know, grabbing him, getting the number, like very pushy. And you do see a lot more masculine women in Brazil. Like, that's one thing I will say, is that women in Brazil are a lot more masculine. So it's harder to find like an actual feminine Brazilian girl. Whereas in Colombia, pretty much any Colombian girl that you're going to speak to is going to be super feminine. Like, it's very rare that you're going to run into like a masculine girl from Colombia. Moving on to number 4, overall attractiveness. When it comes to attractiveness, guys, I would say that Colombia definitely wins, because you can literally go to any mall that you want, okay? You can go outside and just have a little walk on the street. You can go to a smart fit gym. You can go to any nightclub and you're gonna see beautiful women walking around everywhere. Absolutely, just, it doesn't matter where you are, you'll run into beautiful women. Colombian genetics are just ridiculous. It's insane. Like, to this day, I haven't seen a place in Latin America as good as Colombia when it comes to the ratio of beautiful women. When it comes to Brazil, you could literally be walking around for like a whole week. So right now it's winter here in Rio de Janeiro. I've been walking around for like a whole week, no, 2 weeks actually. And I think we saw like 1 or 2 girls that were like 8s and above, and the rest is just like, you can be walking around and just seeing a bunch of 2s and 3s and just like fat women, masculine women on the beach. You're not going to be interested in any of that. So this is kind of like the comparison between those two countries. You can go to like an average shopping center here in Rio de Janeiro and you're not going to see any hot chicks. It just depends what time of the year it is. Of course, in summertime, like New Year's Eve and probably the carnival, you might see a little bit more attractive women, but it's just so many people here in Brazil, and overall they're not going to be attractive. And that's not to bash, you know, Brazilian people, because there are some beautiful Brazilian women as well, of course, we all know that, but on average, walking around, Colombia definitely takes the win. Number 5 is going to be the language barrier. So Spanish is of course a lot easier, and even though most people in Medellin are not going to be speaking English, okay, you have to kind of learn Spanish. you can get by a lot easier, I think, in Medellin, Colombia than you can in Brazil. Most people in Brazil do not speak English. Just because I have met girls that are intelligent and they speak English doesn't mean that everybody here speaks English. That's not the case. You're gonna have to use a translator like all of the time, and Portuguese is a lot harder to learn, trust me. Like, you can be learning this stuff for years on end and you're still not going to sound like a local. All right, number 6, flaking. This is kind of interesting because girls all around the world are very flaky in general. You know, they change their mind last minute and then just don't show up. But where is flaking a bigger problem? I would say in Colombia, what's gonna happen is that they're just not gonna show up. If a girl's not show up, she will. If she's not, she's just not gonna show up at all. Like, she'll just flake and not show up. When it comes to Brazil, I find they will show up, but they're just like super late. It's ridiculous. Like, some of these girls, honestly, I think one time I've waited like over 2-3 hours. So I was obviously working on my phone. I'm not gonna waste all of that time. But the chick's supposed to meet me on the beach at like 12, and then she arrived at the beach at like 3 p.m. No joke. So when you're gonna be planning your dates in Brazil, you're gonna have to kind of like keep that in mind, that a lot of the girls are just like taking so much time to get ready. And so you might have to literally plan dates like 2 to 3 hours backwards. In Colombia, I wouldn't say it's like that. I would say most of the girls are going to be on time. However, they are very flaky. Like, you can be talking to the girl for ages and then you're going to meet her up and then they just don't show up. I've had that quite a few times in Colombia, whereas in Brazil, it's not so common. And also, to be honest, I had a girl in Brazil that did actually show up early and I came in late. So, you know, it's always going to be that one girl that is on time. But in general, I would say that like Brazilians just really take their time when it comes to, you know, showing up on time. All right, and last one, number 7, which one should you pick for a long-term relationship? Where is more likely that you will find a long-term relationship that is actually good? This is a very tricky one, guys, because it really depends on the individual. But in general, I would say that you might have a little bit more luck here in Brazil, just because of the simple fact that there is just a lot less prostitution going on. There's a lot less of that sex work going on as you have in Colombia. Girls on average are a lot more intelligent. I think both Brazil and Colombia are very traditional. They have traditional values when it comes to dating. They are dating for the long term, especially the good girls. We're not talking about the girls that are participating in sex work. But overall, guys, I think it really depends on you and what you personally want, like what goal you have when it comes to dating and what you like personally. Okay, so you have to kind of experience both before you can judge it for yourself. I would highly recommend, if you are going to come to Brazil for dating, is to, yes, come to Rio de Janeiro, come check it out. It's a great spot. However, don't be afraid to take that flight to Florianopolis or go up north in Brazil and just check it out for yourself. You don't have to live there, but check it out. And you're going to be a lot more surprised when it comes to your results in dating. It's going to be night and day difference. And also, you can actually just bump into some of these girls that are on holiday in that big city. Now, I personally prefer to stay in the bigger city because I like to have good infrastructure, roads, gyms, you know, nice beach, just access to things that make me happy every single day. I'm not just here for dating only. Life is not just about women. We want to have access to good gyms, potential connections, meeting other expats. There is a lot more to life than just women. But I'm just telling you, as far as the dating options, if you go to these smaller places, you're going to do a lot better. Same goes for Colombia. I wouldn't recommend going to Santa Marta or San Andres. It's more like a holiday place, you know, a lot of families, a lot of kids. It's not really, you know, a day in hotspot. But somewhere like Pereira, you know, could be a good spot that you could check out, and you can stay in Medellin and you can just take a flight, okay, for a couple of days. You don't have to stay there. You can just go there, check it out for yourself. Maybe you meet a nice girl and then you can actually bring it back to Medellin. Dating in both Medellin, Colombia and Rio de Janeiro is going to be ridiculously hard. It's not going to be easy because you have all of these gringos coming in, and they're both going to be very hard for the reasons I just mentioned. Medellin, guys, we have bad reputation as gringos. And then Rio de Janeiro, I mean, guys, you can be walking around here for literally hours and you will not see a single hot chick. So anyway, my overall pick, Brazil or Colombia. I personally choose Brazil to actually live here for the long term. I think there's a lot more options. Brazil is also a huge country. So it's not just Rio de Janeiro. There is so many different cities in Brazil that you can travel to and explore. I think it's a lot more livable. For me, I like to go on runs through Leblon, Copacabana, you know, Botafogo. I mean, there's so much to do in Rio, and it feels more like a livable place for the long term. Medellin, unfortunately, is not a very livable place. I feel very claustrophobic when I'm there. It's just a place that's surrounded by mountains and clouds. And now I just got to the point where I can't stay for longer than 10 days at a time, okay, before I just had enough of it and I have to leave. I mean, guys, dating has become extremely hard over the last couple of years due to social media, and the only way to find the highest quality girls that have good personalities and they're also really hot, where you're actually attracted to them, not just some girl that you're like, oh, you know, she's good enough. No, you're actually attracted to her, you're actually excited to take her on a date, is you have to build your social media profile. So that means you have a high status Instagram profile, and also when you meet them on the streets, you're gonna give out your Instagram, okay? You're gonna show them your lifestyle, you're gonna show them some status. So that's how I was able to meet high quality women in both of those places, even though I'm telling you guys that it kind of sucks for dating. Because when you have a good profile, you can pretty much go anywhere and you're still gonna crush it, guys. So if you're interested in building a high status social media profile and actually improving your dating life, okay, go to my Instagram and DM me the word date, and myself and my team will be getting back to you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give this video a big thumbs up if you made it to the end. Comment down below, let me know which one to see in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't already, guys, and as always, click that notification bell so you're notified every single time I post a new video. That is it. We see you guys in the next one. Peace.